Chapter 73. Surely God is good to Israel, even to such as are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped, for I was envious at the arrogant, when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no pangs in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride is as a chain about their neck. Violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. They scoff, and in wickedness utter oppression. They speak loftily. They have set their mouth in the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people return hither, and waters of a full cup are drained by them. And they say, How doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the wicked, and being alway at ease, they increase in riches. Surely in vain have I cleansed my heart, and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day long have I been plagued, and chastened every morning. If I had said, I will speak thus, behold, I had dealt treacherously with the generation of thy children. When I thought how I might know this, it was too painful for me, until I went into the sanctuary of God, and considered their latter end. Surely thou settest them in slippery places. Thou castest them down to destruction. How are they become a desolation in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors, as a dream when one awaketh. So, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou wilt despise their image. For my soul was grieved, and I was pricked in my heart. So brutish was I, and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast hold in my right hand. Thou wilt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire besides thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed all them that play the harlot, departing from thee. But it is good for me to draw near unto God. I have made the Lord Jehovah my refuge, that I may tell of all thy works. End of chapter 73. Chapter 74. O God, why hast thou cast us off forever? Why doth thine anger smoke against the sheep of thy pasture? Remember thy congregation, which thou hast gotten of old, which thou hast redeemed to be the tribe of thine inheritance, and Mount Zion wherein thou hast dwelt. Lift up thy feet unto the perpetual ruins, all the evil that the enemy hath done in the sanctuary. Thine adversaries have roared in the midst of thine assembly. They have set up their ensigns for signs. They seemed as men that lifted up axes upon a thicket of trees. And now all the carved work thereof they break down with hatchet and hammers. They have set thy sanctuary on fire. They have profaned the dwelling place of thy name by casting it to the ground. They said in their heart, Let us make havoc of them altogether. They have burned up all the synagogues of God in the land. We see not our signs. There is no more any prophet, neither is there among us any that knoweth how long. How long, O God, shall the adversary reproach? Shall the enemy blaspheme thy name forever? Why drawest thou back thy hand, even thy right hand? Pluck it out of thy bosom and consume them. Yet God is my King of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces. Thou gavest him to be food to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Thou didst cleave fountain and flood. Thou driedst up mighty rivers. The day is thine, the night also is thine. Thou hast prepared the light and the sun. Thou hast set all the borders of the earth. Thou hast made summer and winter. Remember this, that the enemy hath reproached, O Jehovah, and that a foolish people hath blasphemed thy name. O deliver not the soul of thy turtle dove unto the wild beast. Forget not the life of thy poor forever. Have respect unto the covenant, for the dark places of the earth are full of the habitations of violence. O let not the oppressed return to shame. Let the poor and needy praise thy name. Arise, O God, plead thine own cause. Remember how the foolish man reproacheth thee all the day. Forget not the voice of thine adversaries. The tumult of those that rise up against thee ascendeth continually. End of chapter 74. Chapter 75. We give thanks unto thee, O God. We give thanks, for thy name is near. Men tell of thy wondrous works. When I shall find the set time, I will judge uprightly. The earth and all the inhabitants thereof are dissolved. I have set up the pillars of it. Selah. I said unto the arrogant, deal not arrogantly, and to the wicked, lift not up the horn. Lift not up your horn on high. Speak not with a stiff neck. For neither from the east, nor from the west, nor yet from the south cometh lifting up. But God is the judge. He putteth down one and lifteth up another. For in the hand of Jehovah there is a cup, and the wine foameth. It is full of mixture, and he poureth out of the same. Surely the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth, shall drain them and drink them. But I will declare forever. I will sing praises to the God of Jacob. All the horns of the wicked also will I cut off, but the horns of the righteous shall be lifted up. End of chapter 75. Chapter 76. In Judah is God known. His name is great in Israel. In Salem also is his tabernacle, and his dwelling place in Zion. There he brake the arrows of the bow, the shield and the sword and the battle. Selah. Glorious art thou and excellent, from the mountains of prey. The stout-hearted are made a spoil. They have slept their sleep, and none of the men of might have found their hands. At thy rebuke, O God of Jacob, both chariot and horse are cast into a dead sleep. Thou, even thou, art to be feared. And who may stand in thy sight when once thou art angry? Thou didst cause sentence to be heard from heaven. The earth feared and was still, when God arose to judgment, to save all the meek of the earth. Selah. Surely the wrath of man shall praise thee. The residue of wrath shalt thou gird upon thee. Vow and pay unto Jehovah your God. Let all that are round about him bring presents unto him that ought to be feared. He will cut off the spirit of princes. He is terrible to the kings of the earth. End of chapter 76. Chapter 77. I will cry unto God with my voice, even unto God with my voice, and he will give ear unto me. In the day of my trouble I sought the Lord. My hand was stretched out in the night, and slacked not. My soul refused to be comforted. I remember God, and am disquieted. I complain, and my spirit is overwhelmed. Selah. Thou holdest mine eyes watching. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I commune with mine own heart, and my spirit maketh diligent search. Will the Lord cast off forever? And will he be favorable no more? Is his loving kindness clean gone forever? Doth his promise fail forevermore? Hath God forgotten to be gracious? Hath he in anger shut up his tender mercies? Selah. And I said, this is my infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will make mention of the deeds of Jehovah, for I will remember thy wonders of old. I will meditate also upon all thy work, and muse on thy doings. Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is a great God like unto God? Thou art the God that doest wonders. Thou hast made known thy strength among the peoples. Thou hast with thine arm redeemed thy people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. The waters saw thee, O God. The waters saw thee. They were afraid. The depths also trembled. The clouds poured out water. The sky sent out a sound. Thine arrows also went abroad. The voice of thy thunder was in the whirlwind. The lightnings lightened the world. The earth trembled and shook. Thy way was in the sea, and thy paths in the great waters, and thy footsteps were not known. Thou leddest thy people like a flock, by the hand of Moses and Aaron. End of chapter 77. Chapter 78. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children, telling to the generation to come the praises of Jehovah, and his strength, and his wondrous works that he hath done. For he established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children, that the generation to come might know them, even the children that should be born, who should arise and tell them to their children, that they might set their hope in God, and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments, and might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God. The children of Ephraim, being armed and carrying bows, turned back in the day of battle. They kept not the covenant of God, and refused to walk in his law, and they forgat his doings, and his wondrous works that he had showed them. Marvelous things did he in the sight of their fathers, in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. He clave the sea, and caused them to pass through, and he made the waters to stand as a heap. In the daytime also he led them with a cloud, and all the night with a light of fire. He clave rocks in the wilderness, and gave them drink abundantly as out of the depths. He brought streams also out of the rock, and caused waters to run down like rivers. Yet went they on still to sin against him, to rebel against the Most High in the desert. And they tempted God in their heart, by asking food according to their desire. Yea, they spake against God. They said, Can God prepare a table in the wilderness? Behold, he smote the rock, so that waters gushed out, and streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Will he provide flesh for his people? Therefore Jehovah heard and was wroth, and a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also went up against Israel, because they believed not in God, and trusted not in his salvation. Yet he commanded the skies above, and opened the doors of heaven, and he rained down manna upon them to eat, and gave them food from heaven. Man did eat the bread of the mighty. He sent them food to the full. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he guided the south wind. He rained flesh also upon them as the dust, and winged birds as the sand of the seas. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp, round about their habitations. So they did eat, and were well filled, and he gave them their own desire. They were not estranged from that which they desired. Their food was yet in their mouths. When the anger of God went up against them, and slew of the fattest of them, and smote down the young men of Israel. For all this they sinned still, and believed not in his wondrous works. Therefore their days did he consume in vanity, and their years in terror. When he slew them, then they inquired after him, and they returned and sought God earnestly. And they remembered that God was their rock, and the Most High God their Redeemer. But they flattered him with their mouth, and lied unto him with their tongue, for their heart was not right with him. Neither were they faithful in his covenant. But he, being merciful, forgave their iniquity, and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away, and did not stir up all his wrath. And he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away and cometh not again. How oft did they rebel against him in the wilderness, and grieve him in the desert? And they turned again and tempted God and provoked the Holy One of Israel. They remembered not his hand, nor the day when he redeemed them from the adversary, how he set his signs in Egypt, and his wonders in the field of Zoan, and turned their rivers into blood, and their streams so that they could not drink. He sent among them swarms of flies, which devoured them, and frogs, which destroyed them. He gave also their increase unto the caterpillar, and their labor unto the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sycamore trees with frost. He gave over their cattle also to the hail, and their flocks to hot thunderbolts. He cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath and indignation and trouble, a band of angels of evil. He made a path for his anger. He spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength in the tents of Ham. But he led forth his own people like sheep, and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. And he led them safely, so that they feared not. But the sea overwhelmed their enemies, and he brought them to the border of his sanctuary, to this mountain which his right hand had gotten. He drove out the nations also before them, and allotted them for an inheritance by line, and made the tribes of Israel to dwell in their tents. Yet they tempted and rebelled against the Most High God, and kept not his testimonies, but turned back and dealt treacherously like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow, for they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their graven images. When God heard this, he was wroth, and greatly abhorred Israel, so that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent which he placed among men, and delivered his strength into captivity, and his glory into the adversary's hand. He gave his people over also unto the sword, and was wroth with his inheritance. Fire devoured their young men, and their virgins had no marriage song. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentation. Then the Lord awaked as one out of sleep, like a mighty man that shouteth by reason of wine. And he smote his adversaries backward. He put them to a perpetual reproach. Moreover, he refused the tent of Joseph, and chose not the tribe of Ephraim, but chose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Zion, which he loved. And he built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth, which he hath established forever. He chose David also his servant, and took him from the sheepfolds, from following the ewes that have their young. He brought him to be the shepherd of Jacob, his people, and Israel, his inheritance. So he was their shepherd according to the integrity of his heart, and guided them by the skillfulness of his hands. End of chapter 78. Chapter 79. O God, the nations are come into thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled. They have laid Jerusalem in heaps. The dead bodies of thy servants have they given to be food unto the birds of the heavens, the flesh of thy saints unto the beasts of the earth. Their blood have they shed like water round about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them. We are become a reproach to our neighbors, a scoffing and derision to them that are round about us. How long, O Jehovah, wilt thou be angry forever? Shall thy jealousy burn like fire? Pour out thy wrath upon the nations that know thee not, and upon the kingdoms that call not upon thy name. For they have devoured Jacob, and laid waste his habitation. Remember not against us the iniquities of our forefathers. Let thy tender mercies speedily meet us, for we are brought very low. Help us, O God of our salvation, for the glory of thy name, and deliver us and forgive our sins for thy name's sake. Wherefore should the nations say, where is their God? Let the avenging of the blood of thy servants which is shed be known among the nations in our sight. Let the sighing of the prisoner come before thee. According to the greatness of thy power, preserve thou those that are appointed to death. And render unto our neighbors sevenfold into their bosom their reproach, wherewith they have reproached thee, O Lord. So we, thy people, and sheep of thy pasture, will give thee thanks forever. We will show forth thy praise to all generations. End of chapter 79. Chapter 80. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that sittest above the cherubim, shine forth. Before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh, stir up thy might, and come to save us. Turn us again, O God, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. O Jehovah, God of hosts, how long wilt thou be angry against the prayer of thy people? Thou hast fed them with the bread of tears, and given them tears to drink in large measure. Thou makest us a strife unto our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Turn us again, O God of hosts, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. Thou broughtest a vine out of Egypt. Thou didst drive out the nations, and plantedst it. Thou preparest room before it, and it took deep root, and filled the land. The mountains were covered with the shadow of it, and the boughs thereof were like cedars of God. It sent out its branches unto the sea, and its shoots unto the river. Why hast thou broken down its walls, so that all they that pass by the way do pluck it? The boar out of the wood doth ravage it, and the wild beasts of the field feed on it. Turn again, we beseech thee, O God of hosts. Look down from heaven, and behold and visit this vine, and the stock which thy right hand planted, and the branch that thou madest strong for thyself. It is burned with fire, it is cut down. They perish at the rebuke of thy countenance. Let thy hand be upon the man of thy right hand, upon the Son of Man, whom thou madest strong for thyself. So shall we not go back from thee. Quicken thou us, and we will call upon thy name. Turn us again, O Jehovah, God of hosts. Cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. End of chapter 80.